Shalom everyone, and we are in Parashat Ki-Tisa. A very powerful parasha, very important parasha. Why? Because there's a lot of subjects in the Parashat Ki-Tisa, but the most important, it's all about the sin of the golden calf. It's not the beginning of the parasha, it's later in the parasha, but it is about the sin of the golden calf. Why do we have to deal with that story? Why the Torah is not censoring this horrible event? Like, who want to hear that their forefathers did something so horrible? Okay? So, first of all, we have to see again the sequence of the parashot of the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus, Shemot, it's all about Shemot, the names. What I mean, what's the name you're giving to God? What's the name? Which means, is that name represent, because a name represents a perception, an understanding. What's the movie we are showing in our inner theater? How do we feel about reality? How do we feel about God's world, that we are part of it? So this is all about that. So we learn that the first stage is always starting with the first few parashot, which means getting out of being a slave. First of all, you have, in order to be able to reach a real perception, you can't really perceive who is God, who is the creator, but the way we perceive him, that's the way we relate to our lives, to everything we do. Okay? Because if somebody thinks there's no God, okay, forget about it. Everything is a chemical evolution, whatever, everything happens by coincidence and by there's nothing, it's all just molecules, atoms, and stuff like this. People behave in a totally different way in their own everyday's life than somebody who feels the presence of God with him wherever he walks, wherever he goes. Of course, people will behave totally differently. The way they speak, the way they do anything, the way they buy and sell, marry, raise children, everything will be totally different. Okay? So the first thing is being independent. Not a slave. Not a slave to what? So here's the story. The story is that we're going through slavery to our body consciousness, to our limitations, to our Yetzer, the evil inclination, and so on, and acknowledging that we are supposed to be free, independent creatures, which means co-creators with the Creator in this world that was created just for us. We understand that the rules are the rules that were created for us to achieve that glorious existence of being co-creators, which means enjoying life, enjoying the bliss the Creator created, however, enjoying it not out of as a gift and shame of getting the gifts, but out of the merit of achievement, that we earned it, out of ownership. And therefore, we learn in Parashat Yitro and Parashat Mishpatim that there are rules. You have to go by the rules, because the rules are connected to the first thing. This universe is created with a purpose. And the purpose is, A, that we receive God's light. B, we have to have ownership of it. We have to earn it. You can't have things for free. No free lunches. You want to be a creator, you want to be a giver, you want to be independent, you want to be happy, you have to earn it. You have to overcome the darkness in order that the light will be yours. And the moment the light is yours, nobody can take it away from you, right? No one. The moment you have an achievement, overcoming, let's say, any kind of scare, relationship issues, whatever, and when you overcome it, you have that sense of what is called real sense of security, self-esteem, because you know now you earn it. Nobody can take it away from you. And that means that you are free. Then you're free to create, you're free to give, you're free human beings. Okay? So Parashat Ito and Parashat Mishpatim were about the rules. And then comes Parashat Teruma and Tetzaveh that says, now that you are free, build the world. Your job is tikkun olam, to fix the world, to raise your world, and to attach it to the light of the creation. And last parasha was Tetzaveh. Tetzaveh means to order, to command. You as a human being have the power to command the light of God into whatever you do. And that's why when you prepare the food for Shabbat, you say, Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, you command the light of Shabbat into the food. It's not going to be the same thing. And one day, we already know with all these experiments that when you bless the rice, it has a different quality. When then you curse the rice, you don't bless it at all. So of course, if you bless the food for Shabbat, the food, the structure, the chemical structure of the food is not the same when it's done with that sense of holiness and happiness and positivity. Now comes Parashat Ki-Tisa. Remember, the last verse of Parashat Mishpatim is about one thing. Moses goes up to the mount for 40 days. So Parashat Teruma and Tetzaveh are still happening on Mount Sinai. And Moses says he's going for 40 days. Here in Parashat Ki-Tisa, it says, we'll go back to it. I'll skip the beginning, the first few chapters. Okay? And we go to chapter 31, verse 18. The parasha starts in chapter 30. But in chapter 31, the more rules are being given, and we'll see how they are connected to our story. Chapter 31, verse 18. ויתן אל משה ככלותו לדבר איתו בהר סיני, שני לוחות העדות, לוחות אבן כתובים באצבע אלוהים. And he gave to Moses, when he completed speaking with him, on Mount Sinai, the 2 tablets, written with the finger of God. Okay? And like every good movie, as that is happening in the camp of Israel, chapter 32, verse 1, which is the next verse, וירא העם כי בושש משה לרדת מן ההר. And the people saw that Moses is late coming down from the mountain. How do you know, how long was he late? So it says, Boshesh means Beshesh, 6 hours late. It felt like it's 6 hours late. ויקרא אל העם על הארון ויאמרו אליו, קום עשה לנו אלוהים אשר ילכו לפנינו. And here we're coming to one of the most realistic aspect in every person's life. 40 days and 40 nights we are waiting for Moses to come down with the tablets. He's late. You know, how many times we go for a meeting and the person is late? And what happens? We're starting to get stressed out. We're starting to get upset. We're starting to get afraid. Depends who's the person and what he's going through in order to come to meet us, right? But the problem is that when we get stressed out, the next thing will be avodah zarah, idol worshipping. You get stressed out, and then you go into a craze of fear, anger, you just name it. Everybody knows from his own everyday life. This is the whole story and nothing else. It's so easy. In a simple everyday life, you think like, how did they do avodah zarah? Okay? We still do that. We do it every day. The moment the person comes on time with a message we don't anticipate. Bang! It's over. We're angry, we're upset. What about we were standing on Mount Sinai and the first thing was, I am the Lord your God, I got you out of Egypt from the house of slavery. Agree, don't agree. You're not a slave anymore. Oh, of course, we're not slaves anymore. We are free people. Are you free when you're angry? when you're afraid. When something threatens you, a person, a disease, a virus, economical stress. We are now coming into the whole world because of a virus is coming into a terrible idol worship issue. Why? Because everything will be falling apart. So people will be scared. People are already very scared. And when you're scared, you're a slave. And then you start making decisions that, in the big picture, can derail your life from its, maybe it took you so many years to put your life on the proper course, and now one moment of scare can derail everything. Correct? One moment of idol worshipping, of such a scare, it is a big, huge test, because that is the story. The story of Parashat Ki-Tisa is humans having great experiences. A person, you know what? Leave Mount Sinai. A person had a miracle. He was in stress. He was afraid. He was upset. Okay? And then he said, no, there's only one God and everything. There's nothing but Him. And I'm just believing in Him, and I pray everything will be okay. And I overcome my stress. Overcome. And I create a miracle. Because what's the definition of a miracle? To go above nature. So my nature was to get upset, and I overcame it. And suddenly amazing things happened. And everything was resolved. It was such a nice way. I'm saying to myself, wow, what a miracle. What a miracle. From now on, I will know that there's nothing but Him. An hour later, a phone call. Somebody crosses you on the road, and boom! That's what people do. We are humans and we fall. This is what this parasha is about. It's about the falling. We're falling, and you know what? This is also, the Torah is teaching us, falling is also part of our everyday life. If we are here, we're not perfect. If we're not perfect, we fall. If you meet a person that says that he never fell, he was always positive, you start to doubt anything that he says. Everything that he says. Correct? Why? It says very clearly, En tzadik she'aseh tov ba'aretz v'lo yachta. There's no righteous that will do only good and will not sin. Whoever says he never sinned, we're very suspicious about somebody like this. That he's not aware that he's a human being. We believe in one God, and it's not you. Okay? So, this is also part of being free, is how do you deal with failures? Failures are part of being on the spiritual road. Whoever says, you know what, I'll take a crash course in Kabbalah, I then also study a lot of stuff, I'll go to the special resorts when people study and do, and after 2 months I'll be a tzaddik. And I will never fall again. This is so unrealistic. We do fall. You can't. Life without falling is like life without breathing. It's like, it's part of life. A lot of people, they get hurt when they fall. It's like, I didn't expect I'm going to fall. How could that be? God, why did you do this to me? Of course, you become a slave. Why? The moment you get into guilt and you get into blame, others and yourself, you're not on the spiritual course anymore. You go into idol worshipping. Why? Do you know anyone that is full of guilt, and that makes him a better person or her? No. So why do we go with that? Because that's idol worshipping. Anyone who is busy mourning and weeping and about stuff that happened in the past that is becoming better? No. Does that mean that I have to say, no, never mind, it happened, so I will forget about it? No, you have to learn from it, you have to fix it. However, lo alecha melacha ligmor. It's not for you to finish the job. ואין אתה רשאי להיבטל ממנה. But it doesn't mean you're exempt of doing the work. When are you going to finish the job? Nobody can give you a guarantee. Can happen tomorrow morning. Can happen, most probably it's going to take years. It's a years of hard work. Although some people can do it in few years, some people can do it over few lifetimes. That's what the Talmud is saying. That's what all the sages are saying. Nobody's standing with a clock. So the moment Moshe lavo, Moses is late few hours. People are saying 40 days. He said 40 days. You know what? It's tough. He didn't take any food. We saw him going up. He didn't take anything with him. Okay? Maybe he knew a secret place where there was a food on Mount Sinai. He was with the sheep there before when, in the previous career, when he was a shepherd of Jethro, he was hanging out the same location. Okay, but 40 days. How could we survive? Everything comes out. So, we do that. It's not a story about once upon a time, long, long time ago, far, far away country. It's about the stuff we have to go every day. Those moments of scare, that by the way, these are the moments that either we fall or we grow. We don't really grow when everything is normal. We don't really grow when things are nice. Everybody wants life to be, on course, like every day you have some plans, you have a calendar, you have meetings, you have classes, shiurim, you have this and that and that, and you like everything to be the way you planned it. But, we plan it this way and not every time. The fact that things don't happen normally on the right place doesn't mean that God went for a vacation. Correct? Doesn't mean that. It means that now it's our time to shine. Now we can take it from another place, which is very, very important. We said on Parashat Yitro, there was something very special on Mount Sinai. Okay? So it's like, you can look at it from this place. On Mount Sinai, there were almost 3 million people. And everybody had an out-of-body experience. So when we're talking about the Mount Sinai revelation, that was the peak of a series of unnatural miracles, right? Starting with Moses coming to Pharaoh, turning the staff into a snake, and backwards and stuff like this. Then the plague of blood and so on, 10th plague, the firstborn of Egypt, the pillar of smoke, of fire, the pillar of cloud, crossing the Red Sea, the manna in the desert, like whatever we hear in that story is abnormal. It's from another planet, another world. It's another dimension. Okay? That's why the whole concept of the story of Exodus is under the month of Nisan. The month of Nisan means, Nisan is coming from the word Nes, miracles. All of those miracles are supernatural. Supernatural, no doubt they're supernatural. Okay? Including standing on Mount Sinai, and then having this out-of-body experience of 3 million people, experiencing the 10 utterances, the law, the rules of the universe, experience it in such a condensed way. Correct? Nothing normal, nothing over here could be explained. Some scientists are trying, stupid, it's like very silly, to explain it. It didn't happen in this plane. And the sages are saying that on Mount Sinai, we said, we'll do and we'll listen. Naaseh v'nishma. Okay? And the Talmud says, it's a very famous Talmud, says, Vayityatzvu betachtit ha'ar, they stood under the mount. And they said literally under the mount. God took Mount Sinai, put it on top of the nation. He said, if I created the world for one purpose, that you accept the law. If you don't accept the law, there's no reason for that, I drop it here. So of course we said, Nasa v'nishma, we'll do and we'll listen. Okay? Now, if we're more spiritual, we understand it was not literally like this. However, going through all of these miracles and finally being able to have this out-of-body experience of millions, which again, no one logically can understand it. But we can understand if you are in such a position and you offered all of these rules, you have no free will. This is total, the Talmud says, coercion. This is coercion. We said yes. However, when Moses goes away and we have to come to the land of Israel and you don't have these miracles anymore, you have no manna, you don't have water coming from the stone, correct? And you have to plow, you have to pray for the rain. The rain doesn't come always on time. There's locusts, there's this, there's problems, there's all kinds of pests that are coming and killing and enemies. And then you have to perform all these rules. And the Talmud is saying, you know what? The Israelites could always say, you know what? When we were given the Torah, we were coerced. We had no free will at that time. We had no idea how to do that. Okay? So, you know what? In a way, somebody signs a contract and you prove in court that he was coerced, forced to do it. Is it legally abiding? No. So, for centuries, the nation of Israel could say, you know, God, we were forced into it. We didn't have time even to go into the details. We were not in a conscious mind capable of realizing what we're going through. Correct? So that is what the whole story of Parashat Ki-Tisa, which means taking a whole bunch of people, a whole nation. Remember, a whole nation that were in a state, the lowest state possible, slaves in Egypt. Like the lowest place, the most unimpure place in the world was Egypt. To be slaves to that in Egypt is the lowest place. Like, just think about it. Getting them out and within a year, bringing them to a place which is the peak of experience of any group of people in the history of mankind. You know, if we accept that what it says in the 5 books of Moses, which is the most influential book on the history of mankind ever, was not fake. Okay? So it's very hard to agree to that. Logically, it's very hard unless you understand what the Talmud is saying. Everything there was an intervention from above. That was a world that is beyond our world. That's the world which is called the hidden world. You call it, Rabbi Peretz was saying, it's called Olam Le'ah. You know, when we have Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel, the 2 wives of Jacob. Why did he have 2 wives? You know, why do we have to know? Is it gossip? No. Each one of them represents, is a chariot for another perception of the universe. Leah is the world that is beyond. The world that is beyond our senses and our logic. That's why the Torah hints that Ve'inei Le'ah Rakot. The legend says, she thought she's going to marry Esau. She heard he's a bad guy. So every day she would cry the whole day to God, please, I don't want that destiny to be married to such a person. So her eyes were veiled with tears. Okay? Her eyes were veiled with tears. So, just a second, we need to... Okay, we'll have to take... So, back to our topic. When we say that the eyes of Leah have been veiled with tears, it's a very kind of a message. It's a message saying when you see stuff through a veil, it's a hidden place. So again, Leah, Jacob's wife, that's the world of Leah, that's a world beyond. We're talking about a whole nation being in that world for such a long period. Okay? Of course, the way to evaluate reality is totally different when miracles are all over you, from everywhere, of course. Of course, that will be different when you go back to Rachel. Rachel is a symbol for this world. The world of the physical reality, that everything happens by nature. Although nature in Hebrew, hateva, the nature, as not just nature, the nature in general, the whole universe, numerical value 86, which is Elohim, God. Okay? So of course, but you need to develop a certain brain in order to be able to see God in nature. Some people do, some people don't. Okay? Some people, you know, they just see a flower, they see a baby born, they see a child walks the first time, and they see God in everything. Okay? They just look at the sky and they see God. Some people they see it in science. Some people see it in art. And some people don't see it anywhere. Okay? Here, there's another way. So it's a way to see the miracles through nature. Now, in our lives, which part of experience do we have? Leah or Rachel? It's of course Rachel. Now, and that's why Parashat Ki-Tisa usually is connected to Purim. Because what it says about Purim, the holiday of Purim, that was the moment this issue has been fixed. What do we have in Purim? We don't have the name of God mentioned in the book of Esther even once. However, you see God's work in every stage. The people were the Israelites, or the Jews, right now they're called already Jews, in exile, and they're having a good time. They are participating in the government of the new empire, the Persian Empire. They took over our arch enemy, the Babylonians. Now, not just after Cyrus gives us our Cyrus declaration, you can go home, you can have your own autonomy, you can rebuild Jerusalem, you can rebuild the temple. Here are the accessories of the temple that the Babylonians took away from you. Take it and go. I'll give you even money for that. How many people go? Few thousands. All the rest stay in the big, beautiful, flourishing new empire in the centers in Babylon, in Shushan, in whatever, in Persia. Okay? And they become like everybody else. And then comes that decree that says all the Jews will be executed on one day. Just all the Jews. Doesn't matter if you converted, doesn't matter that you assimilated, doesn't matter to anything. And okay, and now what do you do? And the result, it happened to be that Esther, the wife of Mordechai, okay, Mordechai was the biggest leader of the Jewish people. There was this story in the Megillah that the queen misbehaved, disrespected the king. He executed her. He wanted a new queen. They just went to the streets and took girls, and they took Esther also. She just went shopping. Oops. That's what the Midrash is saying. She was taken to the palace. She was not so beautiful. Some say she was even very old. And the king decided that she is going to be the queen. Okay, he marries her. And Mordechai is not fighting to get his wife back, because if that happened, must be for good reason. I don't know why, but for good reason. And it happened to be that he saves the king's life, because he was from the Sanhedrin. And to be part of the big rabbinical court of the Jewish nation, you needed to know 70 languages. Happened to be that the guard, you know, in many, many empires, the guard are selected from another place, so they don't know the people of that area, so they don't They can't. They can't make alliance with the enemies of the king. So he took people from Baluchistan for his guard. Happened to be that Mordechai knew the language of the Baluchis. Okay? And he heard them conspiring to kill the king. He told Esther, she told the king. 10 years later, we have this terrible story. Esther is telling Mordechai, you know, if you tell me to go and speak to the king, because it's not by coincidence that I'm the queen, but you have to understand, we have to change. You know, there was a reason for that happening. What's the reason? The reason is in the beginning of the Megillah, in the book. It says, Yeshno am mefuzar meforad. There's a nation. They are spread and separated. They are not united. Let's finish them off. Of course, the story is much bigger, but we're talking about what we can see with the eyes. You don't see big miracles in the Megillah. What happened was that after the Jews got together and they fasted, they cleansed themselves, they prayed, they gave to each other, they got united back again like it was on Mount Sinai, but without any big miracles, without the manna, without water from the stone, without 10 plagues, without the pillar of smoke, of fire and the pillar of cloud. And they got together, and what does it say? Ki imu v'kiblu. Now they accepted the Torah with will and with happiness. That's who we want to be. From that moment on, you can say that we were forced to accept the Torah. What was the result? The king couldn't sleep that night. Happened to be that he decided to open his memoir book. Happened to be open on the page describing the story that 10 years earlier Mordechai saved his life. Happened to be, he said, like, just a second, we never said thank you. This is weird. We're supposed to say thank you to the people that are loyal to the crown. That's how empires go, by loyalty, right? So how should we reward Mordechai? Okay, we need a thinking tank. We need a brainstorming. Who is in the court? Haman. He's just coming in with a death warrant to hang Mordechai that morning. Come in. I have a question. What should be done for the person that we want to show that the king really wants to appreciate? So, Haman thinks, who does the king think about? Just about me. It's all about me, right? Okay, let him ride the horse of the king. Let him dress the clothes of the king. Hold the scepter of the king. Wear the crown of the king. The king says, you are brilliant, I always know it. Go to Mordechai and do it to him. From that moment on, everything down. No big miracles. No one came from heavens down. No lightning hit Haman. Everything happened by nature's way. Okay? This is what we're talking about. And that's why the month of Nisan, of Passover, is a month of revealed miracles, which means miracles from the world of Leah. The world is beyond our 5 senses and the logic of 5 senses. And the miracles of Chodesh Adar, of Purim, are the miracles of, within nature. Which one of these miracles is operating in our everyday life? Which one we can relate more to Mount Sinai or to Purim? Purim, of course. And that's why it says, when Mashiach comes, when humanity is being redeemed, there's no need for the Torah. Only the book of Esther will remain. Because it's when we start to get it from our own place. Yeah, I don't see God. I don't see a pillar of fire. I don't see a pillar of cloud. But I know within myself, which is the biggest miracle. From my own heart and my own logic and my own metabolism, I feel the presence of God in what we just said before, the previous parashot, in the food that I'm making, in the house that I live in. I just let the light of God come and make the miracles. Yes, it does change on the nanometric level, in the level of the atom, it does make the changes. And I feel that. I breathe that. I can sense that. Okay? So this is the biggest story, by the way. The biggest story is the story of Purim, which is basically overriding the story that we're reading right now. Because it's the story, because when we're talking about redemption, a real redemption, would it come from heaven or would it come from earth? Coming from heaven, it means we go back to bread of shame, receiving something that is not really ours. Coming from below, from earth, that means making the correction. However, does that come right from us? No, because is there anything that is not part of God? Aren't we monotheistic? What does it mean monotheistic? It means there's only one God. Not just there up in heaven. We sing it in Passover. Sheba shamayim uvar. It's in the heaven and in the earth. This is the God of monotheism. He's not there far away. He's everywhere. There's nothing but Him. So what is us? Oh, there's one thing in us that is not God. Our desire to receive. All the rest is directly coming from God. Our health, our well-being, everything we have is God's. The only thing that is not God is our desire to enjoy God. That's all the rest. That's the only, Rabbi Ashlag explains in the beginning of his explanation on the tree of life of Rabbi Zakluria. He's saying the only thing that is, what is matter? Matter. What is physical matter? You know what the scientists are saying? We know that everything is energy. So energy is directly from God, right? But what's holding the energy together to be matter? Oh, there must be something. So they invented that particle. They call it the godlike particle. No, it's not a godlike particle. That's a created particle. What's holding the energy together? To hold the atoms together, to hold pieces of matter together, to create objects and creatures and so on, it's the desire to receive. They didn't prove it yet, but that's what's holding everything together, because scientifically, what's holding together, let's say you're sitting on a chair, what's holding the atoms together? They don't have an explanation. All they say is there's a field, the Higgs field. Why? Because Higgs, a scientist, said if all of these particles, all of these energy frequencies are held together, there must be something that's holding them together. Okay? What's the proof? And let's say if there is a proof, that's the only thing that is matter. All the rest is energy. Energy is the creator. Matter is what's holding the energy this way or another. Green or red. Yellow or pink. Could be soft or hard, heavy or light, pleasurable, not so pleasurable, tasty or not. It's all from God. It's all God. There's nothing but Him, except for one thing. Our desire to enjoy it. Our desire to receive it. Our desire to have it. That's the only thing. Nothing else. So, the whole thing is in this world, our world, it's about one thing. It's about our ability to see that, perceive that, realize that, understand that, feel it in all our being, and realizing that we just live in the midst of God. And our job is just to let that in, as we read in Parashat Terumah. And they will build me a tabernacle, a temple, and I will dwell in them. Because for the feel of God to enter our own midst, we have to allow it in. We have control only there, nothing, nowhere else. Everything else is not by control of God, is God. And not milvado, there's nothing but him. So you want to tell me that this book is not God? You want to tell me this table is not God? The air I'm breathing is not God? That the particles on my body are not God? Everything is God. There's nothing but him. The only thing is, do I allow that consciousness to infiltrate into my being, into my heart, into my desires? Till that becomes my only desire, to let that be. However, as we said, in order for us to be able to earn it, we need the illusion of darkness. And that's called the evil inclination, Yetzer Hara. Otherwise, that's called Avodah Zarah, the idol worship. It's there also. It's not, as a friend of mine said, you know, the dark side, as it says in Kabbalah, or Satan, as it says other places, or the evil inclination, he said by others, he's not a freelance of the Creator. He's not a freelance. He is also part of the scheme. He's also part of the picture. He's also a servant of the big story. He's a servant for what? So when we overcome him, then we have ownership over the feel and the experience of God in the midst of nature. In the midst of, your eyes don't see it, your ears don't hear it, but you feel it all over your being. That's the purpose of a human being. So, was that achieved on Mount Sinai? No. Was that achieved on Purim? Yes. In Purim, that was where people kimu v'kiblu. Was the first time we received the Torah out of, wow, we feel it, we know it. We didn't see God. He didn't come from heavens with the clouds and the shofarot and the blowing of the shofar and stuff like that. No, but we know it's here. We know we can feel his presence. When I go to work, when I'm coming back home, when I go to sleep, when I wake up in the morning, when I prepare for Shabbat, when I just prepare a meal for my family, when I just sit and talk to my child. Veshinantem levanecha. I know what the Torah is saying is not a tradition. The Torah is talking about how this world functions. And when I connect to it, it's not a belief, it's not a tradition, I realize that without that perception, I'm nothing. I'm nothing, there's nothing. I'm just having this illusion of fake. And that fake can poof, go away. Here you have a whole flourishing, successful nation. The Jewish people in the time of the Persian Empire. They are taking parts in the government everywhere. They're ministers in the government. They're everywhere. They're ruling the stock market. They're ruling here. They're ruling there. It's like they're so powerful. In one instant, it's all poof, and it's gone. Once you have it, once you don't. To show how fragile is everything you think that gives you certainty, security, good life, good feeling, sense of achievement. That is so elusive. You think it's real. Poof, it's gone. One virus, and oh, it's over. And you can't fight it. You have the most scary weapons in the world, and you can't kill the virus. You have the biggest economy in the world, and you can't kill a virus. It's like, and it can kill everyone, everything. Just the sense that suddenly everybody becomes idol worshippers, not that they haven't been before, but it's being revealed. They get scared, they get upset, and there's no more idol worshipping than being in the state of mind of stress, scare, anger, upset, fear, all of that stuff. Here it is. So, that's a job. The job is to ask yourself, who is running the show? Who does really run the show? If you want to align with that and to be a co-creator with the light that really runs the show, it's a different story. It's a different story. Whatever happens, you know it's all for the good. You stay with the light no matter what happens. What it says, what does it mean that you reach a place of real completion? That you have such love to the Creator that you love Him unconditionally even when He takes your soul away. You don't need signals. Oh God, show me a proof that you exist. You know, like this Israeli joke about this guy who's late for a meeting. He's going to Tel Aviv. You know, finding a parking space in Tel Aviv it's a miracle by itself. And he's praying like, God, please, if I get a parking space right now, I will put the filling today. I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And suddenly, the car just pulls off, just in front of his eyes. Says, oh God, I managed, it's okay. You need a proof. If you need proofs all the time, and we do need proofs, we're in the, you know, a proof for what? A proof for what? It's like what's holding just your body together is a miracle. It's God's energy. Everything can fall apart and disintegrate in a split second. So, if you don't reach that place, you still have a work to do. How do we do that? So we know, it says that God always creates the remedy before the disease. So why the main story, the big blow, is just later in the parasha, not in the beginning? You know, when you have the news, what do they bring the first? Right? The big news. No. They bring the remedy before. So what do we have in the parasha? The parashat Ki-Tisa. Ki-Tisa is a very powerful word. Ki-Tisa means as you raise. Raise what? We said, Parashat Truma. What is life about? Truma. Truma means to raise your reality. When you think that everything you do is holy, it becomes holy. When you think that your house is holy and you behave in your house the way you behave in a temple, and you don't bring into your house stuff that you don't bring into a temple, you don't speak in your house the way you don't speak in the temple, so your house becomes a temple, it becomes a holy place. And people will come in and they will feel something special because your house will become special because you made it kadosh. You made it special. Because you brought in, you raised it, physical bricks and mortar, you brought it into a place of alignment with the light of God. That's called Truma, to raise the hay. Now it's Parashat Ki-Tisa. It's again about raising. Ki-Tisa, we go back, chapter 30, verse 12. Ki-Tisa et rosh bnei Israel. Ki-Tisa et rosh, when you raise the head. You know, there's another parasha, speak about the same thing, Naso et rosh bnei Israel. Parashat Naso in Bamidbar. It's all about one thing. How do you raise a person? By giving him a part. By making him feel that he's part of the big job of the world. Here, it's being done when Moses is allowing every Israelite to participate in the building of the Mishkan by giving half a shekel. If you are poor, don't give less. If you're rich, don't give more. Everybody has an equal share in that part. And what is that part? What did they do with the silver people gave? They put, remember they were in the desert. Desert, it's sands. So the whole Mishkan, the wood, was standing on bases made of silver. So the base, everything was standing on the silver everybody gave. So you come in and you see that Mishkan standing, you say, that's my half a shekel in what's holding that structure. Everybody had a share. So, for us, Ki-Tisa, it's a magical thing. It's a whole story of half a shekel just before Purim, because the tradition is to give half a shekel before the reading of the Megillah from the beginning of the month of Adar. Okay, that's why we read it also in Parashat Shkalim a few weeks ago. Okay, and it says, and what does it say? Read it carefully. V'natnu ish kofer nafsho la'Hashem, and each one will give kofer, a payment for his soul, bifkod otam ve'lo yeh b'hem negev, so they will not go through epidemic. Okay? There won't be negev. Look, this is the verse. If they give the half a shekel, there won't be epidemic. By the way, how do you say virus in Hebrew? Nagif. Here it said there won't be epidemic. Epidemic. Okay? So how do you get the immunity for that? Half a shekel. Half a shekel is a big concept. What's the concept? First of all, why not the whole shekel? You already give a whole shekel. No, half a shekel. And then it says, Machatzit shekel b'shekel hakodesh 20 gira shekel. It mentions the Torah that the shekel was made of 20 units. Okay? Our shekel is made of 100, which is not big difference. I'll explain why. One way, we spoke about it in the past, one way, because when you receive something, and as we said, we were created to desire. Why? If God created the world because he wanted to share the bliss with his creatures, we need to desire that bliss in order to receive it. Okay? Now, how do you do that? There's a rule. Rabbi Ashlag explains in his commentary again on the Tree of Life. The moment there was the tzimtzum, the contraction, when the vessel, in the beginning everything was perfect. There was a night, there was a day, one day. One means there's no other. Everything was there. Past, present, future. Every human soul. And everything was full with light. No space for anything else. Perfect. What's the problem with that? If we were created in the image of God, we need to give. We need to create. We need to be independent. We were not. It was forced upon us, like on Mount Sinai. So what did we do? We contracted, we pushed away. And a big space, dark space was created. This is where we live. So in this space, when we overcome negativity, we do what? Let there be light. Just a moment ago, I was an idol worshiper. I was stressed out, I was angry, I was upset, I hated, I was afraid, and then I realized, just a second, what am I doing? And on Milvado, there's nothing but him. It's only the light. And I have to let that light to come into myself. There's nothing else that I'm doing on this planet. And the light comes in, and you are enlightened. And you start seeing miracles, and things get along properly. Because you said, let there be light. That was the whole purpose. So, why do we want to receive? 10. 10 sfirot. 10 sayings the world was created. Vayomer Hashem. And God said 10 times in Genesis 1. There were 10 utterances on the 2 tablets. Again 10. 10 lights that were given to mankind. Okay? Now, you want it 10. However, desiring just because I want, it's not legal in our world. Why? Just because you want? You're a slave to your wants. If you want it 10, you have to give 10. So, the Kabbalists say, the 10 of the light that you want, and you need to want, you have to want. God created you to want. But the fact that you want it, it's called 10 sfirot of direct light, or yashar. If you just let that in, you have a flash and a crash. because we had that in the beginning. We didn't like it, right? We wanted to get it on our own. So what do we need to do? The 10 sfirot of the direct light is given to us before we even ask for it. The Creator gave it to us in the beginning. It's yours. You know, it's in a fiduciary account, right? Just waiting for you. What you have to do is to earn it. How do you earn it? By creating 10 sefirot of returning light. Or choser. What is returning light? The light that you want to receive, you make sure that others get from it. You want it 10? You're going to get 10. You have to give 10. This returning light becomes your creation. You created a vessel that did not exist before. We think when we love others, we care for others, we do them a favor. No, we do us a favor. Because when we do that action, when we operate those emotions of caring for others and doing for others, we create the sefirot of the vessel of returning light. It's the only thing that stays forever. You know the saying, you live this world only what you gave? That's exactly what it is. So how much do we have to work on? 20? No, only on 10. The 10 of the returning light. And that's why we give half a shekel. Because the other half, the moment you give the 10 of your side, God matches it. Okay, I have 10 waiting for you. That was yours from the beginning. You don't have to worry about that, because the moment you did the 10 of your creation, you created a new creation. The returning light. The Or Choser. This can never be eliminated. You can lose, somebody can lose property, money, health, part of the body, the whole body. Nobody, you don't take it with you to the next life, right? There was Pharaoh. He thought he can preserve the body, keep the body and the wealth. So he's in a museum with his wealth, right? As public property. Why? To show you can't take it with you. Okay? But you can take with you the Or Choser, the returning light. The light. And how was Purim achieved? When people gave to each other. They gave gifts to the poor. I'm not giving you a favor when I'm donating to you. You're my friend. I can't without giving to you. That's a gift. You give gifts to who? Your friends, not to poor. Right? To the poor people you give contributions, donations. No, you give gifts to the poor. You give them like you give to a friend, because you know you're equal. This is returning light. Charity is returning light. Anything you do out of your course, you want to be happy, and you have to make others people happy too. That's returning light. This is a vessel that we created. We become the creators of that vessel. When we complete that vessel, the tikkun is complete. The project of mankind is complete. So, how do you want to create the remedy for the golden calf, for the idol worshipping, for the scare? How do you become safe? Only when you feel that you've built your life on your own. That's called half a shekel. We connect to that when we donate the half a shekel before the Megillah, before reading the book of Esther every Purim. So that's the first thing, which is there's no more, as we said, immunity to anything. Because when you have a real vessel of returning light, and it's full with light, direct light, can anybody take it away from you? No one. That's yours forever. Not just for this life, for the next life, and the life after, and the life after, till the end of all generations, till the great tikkun, when all humanity goes back to the honest. That stays forever. Then comes, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, V'asita kiyor nechoshet. And you do kiyor nechoshet. There was a big basin, copper basin, to wash the hands. What was the copper basin made of?
The mirrors.
The mirrors of the ladies. Half a shekel everybody gives. Men, women, everybody gives. Every person in the household. Okay? But the basin from which the Kohanim washed their hands and legs was made from the mirrors of the women. They brought their copper shining mirrors, and that was melted, and they made the basin. Every woman coming to the temple, look, it says, that's my mirror over here. This is the high priest is now washing hands with my mirror, because the basin is mine, yours, all the women. Same concept. Same concept. Why? Because a woman without a mirror, can you imagine? It's like, is there something precious more than jewels is the mirror, right? Now, then comes the special spices of the Shemen Mishchat Kodesh, the ointment, the holy ointment. What's the holy ointment? Holy ointment symbolizes the light that is coming from high and above. Shemen, oil, olive oil especially, but it was not just olive oil. It says myrrh, and so on. There was some other stuff. It's the special light that is coming from above. Okay? Which means there's a symbol of connecting to the special spirit of holiness into everything that you do. But it's more than that. When we read, V'ata kach lecha b'samim, I'm talking about chapter 30, verse 23. Should take spices, rosh, mordor. Mordor is a special kind of myrrh. Myrrh is a spice, right? But if you go to the translation into Aramaic, Onkelos, he calls it Meir Adachia. Meir Dachia. What's that? Mordechai.
Oh.
Mordechai means pure myrrh. Myrrh is, again, it's a spice, correct? What is that? So, Mordechai, is it a person or is it a concept? Rabbi Zakluya says this is a concept. It's not just a spice, it's a concept. It's a concept that shows that no matter how deep and far can a person fall, there's always that pure, thin light that can come down to the lowest places. This line of light is called Mordechai, the pure light. As long as you have that, you can, that's, you know, when a stove is off, but there's a pilot, you can always use that to turn it on, to ignite the whole thing all over again. That's a Mordechai. Mordechai is the concept of the everlasting hope. No matter how terrible things could be, no matter how bad is the mistake, no matter how far the person falls or goes drift away or cast away, there's always that thin light that the moment you find that light within you, you can ignite the whole light of redemption with that light. And that light was called Mordechai. Mira Dachya, it's in this parasha. Now, says Rabbi Zakluya, Haman, who was a great wise man, on the dark side, but he was very wise. He knew that Mordechai represents that light. Why did he have to come with his warrant to kill Mordechai when he had, in a month, you kill all of them, you kill Mordechai also? He said, as long as they have that light, they have hope. Because that light is called tikva, hope. What is hope? Tikva comes from the word kav. As long as you still have a line up to the eternal light, it's not over. That's what Mordechai means. So it doesn't matter what you did. as long as you can reconnect, find that pure light inside you, and you could be so deep down, far away, cast away. You can, the moment you find that light, you can always create the light of redemption all over again. Another remedy, very powerful remedy. But what's the oil? The oil was, they took the stuff of the Kohanim, they anointed it. What does it mean to anoint? To take something that looks mundane and to get it online with a system of holiness. That's what that oil was made. The moment you find that Mordechai inside you, you're back online. When you're back online, it's a different movie, right? Okay, what else do we have? We have Kach lecha samim, nataf, ushchelet v'chel bena. That's in chapter 30, verse 34. And God says, take yourself spices, and there's a whole list of the spices. We are talking about the story of the spices of the incense in the temple. The Zohar says in Parashat Vayakel, there's nothing more powerful than saying the incense, the Ktoret HaSamim. It is so powerful that if you say that, Ktoret HaSamim, twice a day, you are secure from any plague, any epidemic, any virus, anything. Why? Because with that saying of the incense, you can find it every prayer book in the beginning, Shacharit. Just say that. Say that in order to, what do you do with that? Ktoret HaSamim is by taking away the light from any darkness. What happens to the darkness when you take away the light? It doesn't have an existence of itself. The darkness is only existing only when we give it power. The bigger the trouble will means when the trouble is the bigger, when the hysteria is bigger. Right? How much do you believe in the trouble, that's how much it's a trouble. The moment you pull all of that and you purify your environment, plague cannot control your life. So, and then comes the Shabbat. When is the time that is miraculous? Yeah, it's on the calendar, it's just a day. But when you connect to Shabbat, not just as a day, you connect to Shabbat as a reality, as an existence, as a frequency, as a substance. It's like there's life during the weekdays and there is Shabbat. Shabbat is another planet. It's called Planet Shabbat. It's like there's Shabbat and there's the rest. When a person is working hard, says the Zohar, to connect to Shabbat, while respecting the Shabbat, by preparing for a very important guest coming to your home, when you just do everything on the outside to welcome something in the inside, you're so much more immune. Why do we have to do Shabbat every 7 days? Because we might forget what we're here for. So we get hysterical very easy. But if you really connect to Shabbat and something terrible happens during the week, and you remember, but Shabbat is more powerful than that. And Shabbat is real, this is not real. Shabbat will stay, this won't stay. That's what we do Shabbat. So we go back to our senses to remind ourselves where we're heading on to. Because in the end of the days, every day will be Shabbat. 1,000 years of Shabbat. Correct? So the stress, the darkness, the falling apart of stuff, the mistakes, all of that is part of the preparation for the great Shabbat. For us to keep in line with that, we need to have a taster every 7 days to remind us, hey, that's where we're going to. Why do I have to go through all that stuff during the 6 days of the week? Comes Shabbat for that. For that. And you know what? If you're not really working hard, if you're not crushed before, if you're not crushing your body, your Shabbat won't be so great. Because it says 6 days that God created to do, to act, לעשות. So we prepare for the great Shabbat. Okay, so after having that, after explaining, after the Torah gives, and the Torah gave us about Shabbat already. No, the Torah gives us a list. When you going to find that great fall, that great scare, that great mistake that is impossible, no repentance for that mistake, you have the Machasita Shekel as a healing. You have the copper basin as a healing. You have the pure light that is always there. Just look for it, it's there. If you look, you'll find it. And you have the Shabbat. And you have the incense. If you keep to these, you're okay. No matter what happens, you'll be okay. And that's what's important. You'll be okay. And how do we see that? You just continue. And the Israelites did the golden calf. What was, how can you explain logically the golden calf? It's like, you just 40 days ago, you've been on Mount Sinai. You're still on Mount Sinai. You experienced something no one experienced ever and will ever experience again. So some sages say, Moses was a leader. We can't even explain. He was like, people could feel, when he was teaching, people could feel God. When he was explaining, they felt it was there. They felt it. What was the problem? It's not, they came to Aaron. Said, it's not that they just went away. Okay, forget about it, we'll go. They come to Aaron. Say, Aaron, he was a leader. But we need something like Moses. We need somebody, when he speaks to us, we overcome all of these thoughts and craziness. We want something like this. So the calf was a real creation, magical creation. Yeah, I don't want to go into it, but he was singing, he was talking, he was preaching, he was that. There was like, but that was idol worshiping. Why? We got scared. And, being scared, then idol worshiping is really next door. It's just around the corner. You get angry, you yell at your children, your spouse, your neighbors, on the road to somebody. Why? Didn't we say that anger is avodah zarah, it's idol worshiping? Who gets angry? People get scared. People don't have that connection to the light anymore. So they get scared because it's dark. When you put in the dark, you get scared, correct? And what do? Either you're looking for the Mordechai, for that pure light, to hold on to it so you can overcome, or you let that overcome you. And you become an agent of the darkness. Still, we learn from that so much in Parashat Ki-Tisa. With all of that, when Moses hears what happened, and how he prays, and how he tells God, don't do that because what will the world say? And God said, okay, then again, maybe not. What? Basically, why? God did not know that we can fall. Didn't he create us as creatures that fall so we can rise, and by that we can become godlike? Because we created the godliness out of the darkness? Isn't that what it is about? Is that part of the game? It is part of the game. So what do we get out of it? The 13 attributes. Is there a bigger gift than the 13 attributes? Like, what was Moses saying? Think about it. How do you behave? People make mistakes. Going around with guilt is going to get you closer to God? No. Going to get you more enlightened? No. It's going to give you tools to repair what you messed up when you fell? No. We learn it from Moses. He's supposed to say, no, God, look what I've done. What a treason. I have no words. What does Moses say instead? Show me your glory. You have to be with us. He's saying, you see, you told us that the Torah is a remedy against the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Didn't work. Give me something stronger. So we get... Do you understand what I'm saying? Instead of being full with guilt and remorse, Moses is saying, hello, just a second. What is everybody in for? We want that to be successful, this project which is called humanity. Correct? You gave me tools, didn't work. We need something stronger. This is the big message. Everybody falls. When you fall, ask for something stronger. Don't just stand there or lie there crying, there's no hope. I'm hopeless. What should I do? The golden calf was not a blow and stop the whole project. So your little tiny miserable mistake is going to be the end of the world. Can you compare that with a golden calf? Can't. You know what? We were forgiven. Vayomer Hashem salachti kidvarecha. That's how Yom Kippur was created. We got another gift, Yom Kippur. We made such a mess and we got gifts. Just to realize, what is God if not the unconditional love? We can't change His mind about us. No way. To remember that, it's called Mordechai. The pure light, that no matter what, He still loves you. And all of us. Thank you. Happy Purim.